Ready?
I want to add something. Because we
Ready?
missed yesterday's, I heard a lot of the mass, and it's unfortunate we didn't, we didn't come because we were in the kitchen from 12 o'clock.
I'll talk about
Uh,
that.
Next time, Father Gabe will take a video. But anyway, that feeling I heard, I felt bad because we didn't, we were in here, we were not able to come. But I know in my heart, God knows that He extended the healing
Of course.
to us. Because 1 week before the celebration, we're all sick. And I thought we're not going to make it. Sunday morning, he was in the ER. And I just said, Lord, whatever it is, I offer it up to you. We're going to serve you no matter what. And I just pray that just give us the strength that we can make it the 8 hours. And we made it. So it's really good. Praise God.
Praise God. Amen.
Amen.
I hope the event made a lot of money for the church.
Fundraising pala.
For the church. All right. What was the homily? What was the gospel yesterday that was read? It was a special. It was not really the gospel yesterday. What was it about? Remember? Those who were there.
But the little children
Do you know that this story originated from the Holy Infant Jesus of Prague? That's where it came from. It was just adapted into the Santo Niño. It was the Holy Infant Jesus of Prague. Rose and Noli were there. That's one. Okay, Christ's original 12, plus Paul. I added Paul here. We know that Peter was married, right? Because he had a mother-in-law. You cannot have a mother-in-law if you are not married. So we know that.
Good point.
Do you know that I've also discovered that Peter had 3 sons? Peter had 3 sons. In fact, as Father Dave was talking about, come to me. Don't prevent those children from coming to me. Let them come to me. Do you know whose children they were? They were Peter's children, whom the other apostles were trying to prevent from coming and approaching Jesus. This happened in Capernaum. And Peter was, and the assumption was the wife was also there, but the wife was never mentioned anywhere, right? As usual, just like the wife of Cleophas on the way to Emmaus. Remember? Not mentioned. So those were the children of Peter. You can infer this in Matthew 17. We will open the Bible soon. Look at number 2. Eusebius of Caesarea's church history talks a bit about this. He says, Saint Philip had 4 daughters, and Saints Peter and Paul had wives. Number 2. We're talking, wow, so Peter had 3 sons, Saint Philip had 4 daughters. Well, it's still being argued and debated whether or not Paul had a wife. Because in one of the epistles of Paul, he says, it's not necessary to be married. I was just thinking maybe Paul was sorry that he got married, so he said that. Maybe. So the theologians were like divided. So I will not tell you for sure whether or not he was married, because nobody is really sure. Clement, one of the early church popes, whose words we have just quoted after the above mentioned facts, gives a statement on account of those who rejected marriage of the apostles that had wives, or will they reject even the apostles? For Peter and Philip begot children, and Philip also gave his daughters in marriage. See that? Remember Philip? What do you remember Philip for?
The friend of
Nathaniel.
It was he who recruited Nathaniel. Okay, what else? What do you remember Philip for? It was Philip whom Jesus asked to go look for bread and fish to multiply feed the 5,000. It was Philip whom he asked. And it was Philip who said, 5,000? Where am I going to get fish and bread to feed 5,000? How much crowd did we have yesterday?
400?
How many fathers? Do you have any
400?
idea?
Did you come?
400.
At St. Peter's we have this.
The old way.
How much does the church accommodate? 300?
350.
But there were a lot that were standing.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Maybe 400?
Standing room probably.
Maybe 400. But Philip had to look for food for 5,000. Okay, yes.
Why did Jesus ask Philip where to get food? Why not Peter, since he is the captain or the...
That's a good question. Why did Jesus ask Philip? We're talking about feeding the 5,000.
Getting the 5,000, yes.
Okay. Jesus was testing Philip how he would respond.
Or?
That's number one.
Okay, go ahead.
Philip was one of the supervisors, remember? He was one of the section chiefs. You know that? Remember I asked you to list down all the apostles? And you see Philip was one of those whose name is constantly on one line. He was a supervisor, a section chief. So he was asked, let's go feed them. That's the primary reason. And then, how did Philip respond? How did Philip respond?
Where will we buy?
It was he who found the peasant boy, right? Right, with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. So the theologians were saying, those who, especially the Navarre commentaries, which I heavily depend on, they were saying, well, that must have been a peasant boy, because that's a peasant meal, bread and fish. You know, a peasant? A peasant at the time, those are the people who are the common people, the not rich people, like you. No.
Like you.
I'm the peasant.
Like us. Over here.
I eat peasant meal.
With peppers.
Fried and fried fish.
With meatballs.
Okay. You have a point. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
I read in a book that Philip came from that place. That's why Jesus asked him, because who else would know the area but him? You know,
It's yeah. I heard about it too. I read about it, but it's not supported by. But you know, that's well
That's the
taken.
closest, because
That's
who else-
well taken. It makes sense actually.
Who else would you ask, or somebody? Let's say you wouldn't ask a person that lives in Notley,
Yeah.
or you're in Belleville,
Mhm.
because this is your town, this is your place. You would ask, where's
That's
the
right.
bakery? Where's the supermarket? Where's the
Exactly.
shop?
Galing sa
No. It's
That's why when-
like you said, it's not.
When I have to look for the Bible class bag, I have to ask someone from St. Anthony. It was missing.
supply.
The supply bag. Yeah, definitely that makes sense. No, let me see. So again, Philip gave his daughters in marriage, and Paul does not hesitate in one of his